Let's move on to a game you got to play, Alana, that no one in the public, no one in the media, anybody else had gotten a shot at. They've been keeping it real close to the vest, and that is
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Mass Effect Andromeda.
All right, so I'm going to go. See you guys.
We played about...
This will be a spoiler-free discussion, to be clear.
Yeah, absolutely, and I have a full preview that I tried to detail pretty much everything we encountered that went up this morning that doesn't contain any story or character spoilers whatsoever. I completely kept them out. I tried to not even talk about the narrative
and
at all.
I've edited your preview, and I can assure you, she's being accurate, spoiler-free.
Yeah, I just talk about mechanics for the most part. But yeah,
to be clear, I was going to leave because I just don't know anything about Mass Effect. I've never played any of them.
You, by virtue of sitting next to...
Destin replacement.
Yeah,
I know.
Are you?
I know. I'm like the opposite. I'm the anti-Destin.
You should have absorbed at least something just from sitting so close to it.
I played the first 20 or 30 minutes, and I was like, I can't do this.
Mass Effect 1 rules.
Oh, so good.
See, but everybody says it's like not good.
They're
so
all
like,
wrong.
just play the second one. I mean, you guys did your show. You liked it,
Yeah,
right?
we're almost finished with the first one for the first time, and I like it a lot.
But we are playing it on
like,
easy because the combat is not great. Everything else is still fantastic.
Yeah,
everyone just says, "Oh, just start with the second one." I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. That's what they told me to do for Terminator 2, Ryan, and I couldn't even make
Anyway,
it
our audience is like, please talk about Andromeda now. Stop talking about this.
No.
So a group of us went to EA in Redwood the other day, played 3-4 hours of Mass Effect Andromeda, starting from the very start of the game, and then there was a chunk where they sort of skipped us ahead so that we could see some of the kind of chip-based stuff that we're familiar with. So it starts out, not going to talk about the narrative at all. You get to a planet. You get to a planet, and it's very, very pretty. You shoot things on this planet. So the combat is actually really great. It's currently automatic cover based in that you don't have to press any buttons to get behind cover. As soon as you are behind cover, it just locks you into it. There are good and bad parts about that. Sometimes it's a little glitchy and it does things that you don't want it to. But for the most part, that is what you are doing when you are shooting, is getting behind cover and using your jetpack, which you can use to strafe left to right, which is super fun, great for dodging things. And
how does the pop-out system work if it's automatic cover? Does it like
you just pull the
left trigger and your guy just pops out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, left trigger and right trigger. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's been my not I want to say concern, but a thing that as a big fan of the series, watching the few bits we've seen so far up till now, I've kind of been like, is that jump jet thing gonna kind of just not ruin combat, but just make it weird? How does it feel?
It feels like overall Mass Effect Andromeda feels very different to the other Mass Effect games, I think. And I, like, full disclosure, am scared of saying negative things about it because I know how passionate people are about this. But it feels a little more bro-y than I think previous games did, and then it feels a little more like a cover-based bro shooter than it does like what I know of Mass Effect.
Lean more towards like Gears of War?
And to be fair, I mean, the series has been going that way ever since, from the first one to the second one, and by the time they got to Mass Effect 3, I would say it felt very Gears of War.
It was a thermal
shooter. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of conversation in like while you're exploring and during dialogue, and some of that is just jokes, which is not bad stuff, but it's stuff that I'm not used to yet in Mass Effect. So you definitely feel like you are part of a squad and you are part of a team and you're working towards something together, which is really cool. But to specifically answer your question, the combat totally feels different, but I don't think the jetpack ruins anything.
Good. That's all I need to hear.
Yeah, and it's really fun to use for traversal.
Yeah, I'm a typical human being. I fear change.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Wait, is it just a horizontal traversal thing, or does it also propel you upwards?
Both. Oh. Yeah, so there's also things that you can... There's a ton of crafting, and you can actually unlock certain augmentations for weapons that will let you do extra damage if you're hovering. So the different things you can do with the jetpack are you can strafe side to side. If you run and jump, it'll push you further, which is pretty standard. You can also hover in the air for a small period of time. And the environment of the first world that you go to is really diverse, and there's different ways you can get everywhere. One of them is sort of we saw them in the trailers, those kind of weird pillar things. You can basically do some simple platforming on those, or you can just walk on the ground around. So there are lots of different ways to approach things. And I think for the most part, the jetpack is just super fun.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, it's like really floaty. It feels good.
I mean, we're going to be using it for 40 hours, so
Yeah.
I sure hope it's fun.
Well, there is an environment later in the game that kind of reminds me of Hong Kong. It's really, really dense and packed, and there's markets everywhere. There's really cool bars. There was a club that I went to that was playing trap music, which was like really unexpected. But
Fetty Wap, 2017.
no Fetty Wap. But,
Dang.
you couldn't jetpack around in that environment.
Okay.
So I think it's specific to places that you are trying to explore,
Right.
Which is obviously part of your duty as the Pathfinder. So it is really fun. And like I said, the sound design is one of the things that I was the most impressed by overall. This game sounds incredible, and I think it does a really good job of making you feel like you are on different planets because everything sounds distinct.
That's cool.
Even the jetpack sounds awesome. When a ship flies over you, it sounds awesome. It's just so bassy, and I feel like they put a ton of resources into that.
You can feel the 5+ years of development put into it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
I mean that's a real thing.
Yeah,
Mark. I mean,
no.
There's some games where it's okay, fine. I'm gonna make some people mad, but like Recore is a game that like there's cool concepts there, but you can tell that that game did not have 5 years of development into it. The production values are just not as high. So that's what I mean.
Think Mass Effect feels, I would say, incredibly well thought out.
How does it look like graphically?
So the environments look good. I'm a little off put by the characters' faces, humans specifically.
Did you choose male or female rider, Scott or Sarah?
Sarah at the start and then Scott at the end. So I played as both intentionally. Nice. And they just look a little bit off. I wrote in my preview, I think they kind of look like Sims 3 era Sims. They sort of just, something about their eyes is a little bit off. Their eyelashes are incredibly thick and just obviously like stuck to their face. Some weird facial animations. So they don't look great, but it could just be that I've been playing so many freaking beautiful games lately that like it's a really big game, and I know there's a lot of things that they have put time and effort into. Like the ship looks awesome as well. The map looks crazy pretty. Like just looking around the map, if you go past something that has a black hole, all of the light actually shifts around it.
Oh,
like,
nice.
Oh,
it's
cool.
Just that map alone is gorgeous. And yeah, there's a ton of variety of planets and different things to do on them. There are things called anomalies, which basically means that there is something on a planet that is you can interact.
Right, you got to go mine it, or
you can mine it. You can do that without even
right?
landing on it.
Yeah.
There are missions where you can get it on foot, or things where you can use the Nomad, which by the way I really like.
Oh, but you really liked Mako too.
That is true. Yeah, I like vehicles.
I like the Mako too, Marty.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
deal with it.
turns out half of this table can be wrong.
Question about
How do you feel about the Mako?
I'm indifferent.
Your future on
counts
this
for
show
us.
depends on it.
Indifference does not count as one for you.
What would Destin say?
Destin would say it's perfect, and I played as a guy.
That sums it up.
Yeah.
As someone who's never played
A
any
boy
of
Mako.
them, and I know you didn't want to talk about like narrative too much, so we can keep this as a simple yes or no. Can I play Andromeda and
Yes.
enjoy it?
Yep.
Okay.
You don't need any prior knowledge of Mass Effect. I think it will help in that, there'll be alien races that you recognize
Sure.
and you'll understand the lore a little bit better, but I absolutely, from what I played, do not think that you need to.
Because this game actually does look cool, but I'm just just don't know anything about the series.
Totally,
so.
you'll totally be fine.
You were talking about the look of it and how the different planets and how varied it is.
Also, the aliens look good. It's just the humans that look a little bit.
Interesting. And so on that note, I want to ask you, remember, most people won't realize or care, but they moved this. It was Unreal Engine for the original trilogy, and they moved over to their own in-house Frostbite. So do you think does it still feel like it looks and feels like Mass Effect, even with the technology change?
I mean, it looks. It's hard to say. It feels like a new game. It really does. And,
That's good.
It's been a long time since Mass Effect 3. There are definitely elements of the HUD and the way that the ships look that in design, or I guess design's the right word, are definitely taken from previous things we've seen in Mass Effect. So it's consistent in art style is what I would say. But it does look very different. And, one of the things that I particularly liked is those planets that I went to looking dramatically different, I think is so important. They didn't so much, in Mass Effect 1, the planets and the environments you see are kind of forgettable, but there's a planet that you go to in Andromeda that has floating pillars, has like green and red, there's random things of lightning that just spark out of these rocks everywhere. Like, it's just, there's so many things that you just wouldn't imagine, and then sort of in the middle of it there's just this tree and you don't know why it's there. And it's just all of these different things that are pieced together, whereas I feel like I keep thinking of Destiny and being like, I wanted the planet variety so badly in that, and it felt like the same kind of thing, just reskinned a lot. This totally feels like different places completely.
So it feels like you're in a big universe then.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all.
Yep.
See, that's a big sort of almost unspoken thing that I want out of Mass Effect.
Right.
Is for it to feel, because that's one reason, a lot of people, everybody has their own favorite Mass Effect. A lot of people choose 2. 2 is my least favorite because for me, part of that is 2 feels the least vast. The Citadel is like 2 hallways.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of more corridor action, and that's what I loved about 1, and 3 brought some of that back. So that makes me really happy to hear.
It definitely feels vast. And the things that I really like Mass Effect for are the world building, and especially how subtly that is done. I don't think that's quite as subtle in Andromeda. I think some of the dialogue is very blatant. It's like, this is what's happening, this is what's happening, this is what's happening, instead of having you piece it together really slowly. That's only based on like the first hour or so, though it could completely fix that after the introductory parts. And then I also really like weird aliens and learning things about those, and that is absolutely present as well.
Nice.
The combat is generally my least favorite part of Mass Effect games, and I don't know how much combat this is going to have, but I did only really do it on 1 planet. The other planets, I didn't shoot anything at all, and what is there for the combat is fun, for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what are you doing when you're not shooting?
Talking to people?
Just like falling in love with aliens?
Yeah,
You can fall in love with aliens?
how's the quote? Good banging.
I didn't get to do any banging. Yeah.
Whose quote is that?
That's
He
the
said
developers.
pretty good banging. you
Pretty
know.
good banging.
Okay.
I didn't get to do any of that, but
Same.
I did have a lot of conversations with the aliens on my ship, and one thing that was really cool is 2 of them discussed their religion, and we just had like civil disagreements. Like it was like, yeah, I don't agree with that, but I guess having a diverse array of religions, like there was just a conversation that I kind of accidentally came across where they were arguing about the existence of a god, and I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I want to talk about aliens. Like this is what I want to talk to these people about, and it was cool. There was some really interesting insight there.
Really cool.
Yeah. To dial back to your question about what you do on planets, I should mention the scanner. There's this new thing called a scanner that you have with you from the very, very start of the game, and you have to scan things for research data, which is shortened to RD. That is what you use to craft things, and the crafting in Andromeda is pretty extensive. You can craft armor, and you can craft weapons, and you have to basically buy blueprints, which all have different rarities as bronze, silver, and gold. Obviously, gold being the rarest of those. There might even be more beyond that I didn't see. And then you buy which blueprints you want, and then you craft the items that you want, which you get using the research data, but also items that you will just generally loot across everything.
Can I make a space shotgun that shoots knives?
So the stuff that you can make in terms of weapons, I just wish I had more time with it, because there is so much stuff that it's like you can turn a shotgun into a grenade launcher, but it's still a shotgun. Like it's like you can
I'm on board with
basically
that.
mash.
That sounds
I'm
good.
on board with that.
You can mash like any
the
2 weapon types
Jericho.
together. I don't even know how it's going to work. It's crazy. It seems like you'll be able to do so much stuff, whereas the armor seems to be more catered to just like a damage boost if you're on low health or that kind of stuff, which I'm totally going to mess around with a lot. Didn't seem like there was a whole lot of aesthetic options. I really like being able to color coordinate. Didn't seem like there was a ton of those options, but there was just so much stuff you could make, and each of the weapons, I think if it's a gold blueprint, you get 3 augmentation slots, meaning 3 like different kinds of stat boosts or whatever. So yeah, there's tons of stuff you can do. I think every single thing that you find will be able to be used towards something. You will never just have an inventory full of stuff you don't need.
So I think the couple more questions our audience needs to know about Mass Effect, since it's finally the first time anybody's gotten to play it, is how, there's no more Paragon and Renegade system. That sort of black and white, light side, dark side, good, evil dialogue. How did the dialogue feel in terms of if you wanted to be rude or if you wanted to be nice, or how was the dialogue system? And then the class system. BioWare's kind of made a big deal about, well, there is a class system, but you can kind of reallocate and change your sort of skill set on the fly. What did you get to play around with there?
Well, we can talk about the class system first, because there has been quite a bit of info about that online already. Some of you might have seen it. You can pick a class, and it just gives you like a really small initial boost to something. It might give you an item like a drone. It just does something really minimal. But beyond that, kind of pointless. In that I could still, you have 3 skill trees, which is tech, biotics, and combat, and I could put my skill points into any of those at any point in time. So it's like, well, I get the
Diablo 3 effect.
Yeah,
Kind
or
of.
like Dark Souls. That's
Yeah.
Dark Souls,
Yeah.
you roll a starting class, but within 5 or 6 levels, you could just be whatever you want.
That's pretty much exactly what it's like, yeah, which gives you a lot of flexibility, but at the same time, I didn't see the benefits or flaws of that system. Like, I don't know how far that's going to evolve beyond what it is.
Yeah, I don't mind that because I feel like one of the weird things in Mass Effect 1 is right from the get-go, you choose one of the 6 classes and you look at them and you're like, well, I don't really understand this yet because I haven't played the game, and you're sort of locked into that without being able to make an educated decision on your first run
I
through.
mean, I got screwed on that by not knowing to level up my charm.
Yeah, you obviously charm and fitness, and that's why you had a bad Ashley and I had a wonderful Ashley. By the way, how is she?
I didn't see Ashley.
This game is very far in the future, isn't it?
Yes.
She's probably fine.
She may be dead.
Don't say that.
Oh, dang.
Maybe it's like 600 years after.
Cryostasis, Ryan.
Probably dead. But
Don't say that.
yeah, I didn't see any
She's
flaws in that
probably
class
600
system.
years old somewhere.
Nice.
I didn't see any flaws in that system. I didn't see any real perks either. I mean, I guess it's good that it seems very flexible. So
Yeah.
you can really do whatever
Okay.
you want. And then my favorite thing about Mass Effect Andromeda from what I played so far is the changes to the Paragon and Renegade system. So instead of
Go on.
instead of having just sort of good and bad points, you approach dialogue and you have the option to answer something rationally or emotionally a lot of the time. I'm sure there will be more than just those 2 things, but answering something emotionally can be compassionate or heartfelt or angry, and then answering it rationally would be, rational and logical. So instead of basically giving you this system where it's like you are good or you are bad, it gives you a lot more gray area. And there is a counter that basically is a personality stat sheet. So what you're doing when you're making dialogue choices is actually choosing the tone and personality of your character rather than just whether they were a jerk 10 times or whether
Right.
they were nice 10 times. So I think
Interesting.
I think this is a great evolution of that mechanic.
Do you know what you're going to say, or is it literally just like you choose an emotion and then
No,
you get a
it's
response?
the same as Mass Effect
Okay.
1 where, you get a line,
You get an
but the
idea.
character doesn't
Yeah.
say the line.
Sure, but you I know what's going to happen.
Yes, it's exactly like that, yeah, which I really like. And I'm excited to see how, as I kind of said before, there's a lot of sort of banter in combat
Yeah.
and characters talking to each other. And I'm wondering if, as I am shaping my character through choosing emotional or rational dialogue options, if eventually...
Fuck.
Yeah, I got you.
Go
Yeah.
logical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If eventually that will change how my character talks when I'm not controlling things.
Yeah, that's
It'll
cool.
be really interesting.
I
to
like
see.
that.
Yeah.
So to sum up, it sounds like it is very clearly a new game, but for the most part, from what it seems like it's heading in some very promising new directions.
Yeah, there's some stuff that I really like, some stuff that I don't like so much. But right now, the way that I feel about everything is that, I don't know yet. I would really have to play more, and this is obviously going to be a huge game.
Yeah.
And one thing that I do have to mention that could totally change on release is that it was very, very, very buggy. Had multiple crashes, some really bad visual glitches, things where a line of dialogue was supposed to be delivered and wasn't, so I was just stuck on a screen and couldn't exit out of that screen.
Do you know
it is pre-release, though.
Yeah,
What
and
you were
they got a
playing
month
on,
ago.
or you're allowed to say what you were playing on?
Oh, we were playing on
PCs.
PC. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind, but
They were packing some heat, those PCs.
they were solid. But it was pre-release, obviously, so it's the code's not done yet. But there were devs kind of over my shoulder. I would be like, "Hey, this happened." They'd be like, "Oh, that's weird." I'm like, "Ooh, that's concerning." So hopefully it doesn't release like that. But I really wanted to mention it because it's this one time I previewed Assassin's Creed Unity and decided not to actually write a preview because it was so broken. And it's like, it came out broken. I should have written that preview. So now I just kind of feel like I should always address.
Yeah,
that
I mean, it's you
was
be
not
honest
great.
about what we saw. It's not the final thing. It could tighten up, but as it was presented to us,
Yes,
it was it had some
it was very hard to play.
rough around
and
the
we've,
edges.
we've all played plenty of games that both things happen in the last month.
Oh, yeah.
Either the last month, it's 25th hour, everything comes together,
Yep.
and the game's amazing,
Yeah.
or 25th hour, it's like, well, nope, this is
Yeah,
it. So
it could absolutely
Yeah.
be either way.
Excellent.
Overall, we're gonna have a bunch more coverage up.
Yes, plenty more to come from Mass Effect Andromeda. We've got like a month to
Yeah.
to pack in as see what kind of coverage we can cook up. So
yeah. You see any Krogans?
Yeah,
That's cool.
Big fan.
All right.
nice.
Good talk.
End on a good note there.